specific with pornography, right? It hijacks a man's sexuality from a very young age. So the average age of first exposure to internet pornography is 11 years old. Um, and at 11, the male brain is not developed to handle what it is he's seeing and being exposed to. So I think in one element, it's reshaping a society, and it's confusing them in terms of like what is real sexuality and what is real intimacy. Pornography isn't intimacy. Pornography is a highly produced, false representation of what sex could be. It's not what it is. So I think for a lot of the young men that I have worked with, they had difficulty creating meaningful relationships. For multiple reasons, right? They sit down and they consume people. So they're training themselves that when sex is taking place, that they're supposed to be the spectator to it because I sit on the sidelines. So it creates a lot of social anxiety. It creates a lot of fear from rejection in women. So that's one side effect, is the inability to actually create meaningful relationships. If you consume it long enough, it can have effects with, so there's a term PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction. So if you look at the stats of men struggling with erectile dysfunction, it's like there's men in their early 20s that have ED. That has never been the case before. A man in his early 20s should have thriving hormones. Like he should be worried about like I'm aroused too often as opposed to I can't get aroused, and it's all due to conditioning, and so neuroscience is so powerful. Our brain, the human brain, is incredible, but if we're not aware of how it's changing, so what fires together wires together. So when you sit down and watch pornography, that's you telling your brain that while sex is taking place, you sit on the sidelines. If you want to ejaculate, you have to pleasure yourself. So when you're in the act of like real intimacy with a woman, that's not what you've been training yourself to do. Athletes could speak to this, right? Like if I'm going to practice shooting free throws, but then I'm playing baseball, like the free throws I practice wouldn't be doing anything. So if I wanted to have real deep intimacy with a woman, I need to practice deep intimacy with a woman, not practice sex by watching it on a screen. So the second one is the erectile dysfunction. And then at a deep level, it hijacks motivation, and I don't want to go too deep into the science here, but there's a chemical known as dopamine. And dopamine, so you're familiar with it, yeah. So dopamine, a lot of people think of as like a reward, pleasure, like when you do something good, you get a dopamine. And that is true, but it's also tied to our motivation. So it should be dripped out when we're in the pursuit of our goals. Where pornography hijacks it at a supernormal level, gives you these massive spikes of dopamine. So what ends up happening is because you're getting dopamine from pornography, you no longer get dopamine in the pursuit of your goals. You no longer get dopamine for going to the gym. You no longer get dopamine the natural world. Exactly. So I think that's the biggest impact that most people don't really understand, which is why I talk to so many men that are in their mid to late 20s, and it's like they have no motivation. They can't get out of bed. They have no job. Like they're not pursuing anything meaningful in this world. So those are three, and I think that we could probably chew on that if you wanted to.